I said, you know, I'm struggling to get video. I said, you know, with the show before, and the show it over at luncheon, but I said, yeah, I can take it away.
I think it just, you know, after you're kind of in that mindset, here's some things about it, there's some spiritually, you know, and then you see what.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah, like just all the fabulous job.
It's, I didn't see it when I looked.
I think it'll be on YouTube, but she, I don't know what's YouTube and, TV, ESPN and all that, but I don't know what's YouTube, but the songs will be on it because, right, I don't think that will, but,
Well,
I think
it's
it'll
to be
be.
on the.
I gotta talk to my daughter, she handled that one, yeah. She had it, because she's the one who did the video, pictures and stuff, and music, and then she did the reflection too, so. Yeah, it was,
She did a
nice.
really nice job.
It was nice, yeah, she helped get a better ride.
Oh, gosh, I think that.
I thought about doing something, but the night before, we had some friends up in Texas. Yeah, no, morning, before, of course, we had breakfast for the they stayed at the house. I was gonna finish early in the morning breakfast. I couldn't get it started.
Yeah.
He says, I'm sorry, I can't do it, so. One of my cousins, he did a really nice
Well, I
job.
can
I
understand
mean,
that.
I couldn't
I
have
don't
done
think I trust
I
myself
can
either.
tell myself, you know, the night before I was laying there thinking, you know, I'm thinking I can do this, I can do it because we didn't put on a holistic program, which is songs and stuff, obituary and stuff, but I just thought that's a good thing I didn't even try.
Yeah, right. You did, I mean,
I
you found out.
Yeah, I told you for sure.
Yeah.
So,
During COVID, and you're 4 months apart. And so, you know, we kind of, so we can have a certain.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, hey, I was in fourth grade, this weather's nice. During COVID,
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, they couldn't take it, which was really sad. You know, I went to see my mom. I know, to see her. I tell you, meant so much. Well, I was at the bed. She took the last breath. Laying there dead. I thought I could get that out of my mind. I said, I still think about it.
Take a deep breath, you made it.
Yeah, you know what to say. You know,
It takes a while.
And you're only gonna be here for
I really had to work.
a few hours.
Trying to remember.
I just had a customer call and say, you're trying to kill me, trying to see us, or carbon monoxide poisoning. We're roofing your building, leave.
Yeah.
My employees are, they say they're dying. I don't know if they turn a fan on.
So we did it for both.
Nice.
Yeah.
Turn on the exhaust fans and shut.
Shut the window. Only thing we have is a air compressor running.
Man,
I told you guys to go down, turn it around 180 degrees, and tell them we did something. I don't want to.
yeah, I don't know what else you could do.
Pretty much.
5 years.
I think we're ready. Chef's on her way.
Oh, she.
My wife is
You guys all set?
Yep.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Started. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll convene the Board of Education Potential Bond Workshop. And starting off with the call to order and the rest of the open meetings law, the rest of Open Meetings Act guarantees that every meeting of the public body should be open to the public in order that citizens may exercise their democratic privilege, attending and speaking at meetings of public bodies. Information is located on the poster posted in the board. And we'll start off with public comment.
All right, we have Travis.
Travis, you're up. How you doing, Travis?
Hey, guys. Hello, Travis Buell. To be honest, I didn't really prepare a comment, so is this all about the bond issue or just the working on, I guess a question would be forthcoming first. What is all on the topics for today?
We have the agenda. We just have some comments on, from JEO and Hausman.
So-
Draft potential.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to comment without hearing anything first, so maybe I should sit down.
So tonight in the workshop, Travis, is JEO completed a comprehensive facility audit of the district, infrastructure, buildings, all of that. From that, critical needs were addressed, and now Hausman is here tonight with JEO to discuss the costs of what those critical needs are. And then Northland is here to talk more of the timeline, community engagement in that piece. So it's kind of three.
I think I withhold comments out here, what's going on. Thanks.
We'll have public comment.
That's perfect. That's really what I was going for. Thanks.
Thanks for being here.
Heather? Hello, Heather.
Hello. It's hard to hear you guys in the back, so, if you can just make sure, like during the meeting, that we can hear you guys.
Sure.
I'd appreciate that. So Heather Hall, 14445 Southwest 15th Street. I just noticed that, the word potential bond, it was in the title of the meeting today, and I know you guys are using that word, you're saying it's potential. It's not potential. You guys have had this in the works for a year and a half or so, if not more. This is not potential. You guys are going to go through with this. I think what bothers me is, you guys spent the money on the activities complex. It's not a bad thing in and of itself, and I think I used the analogy last time I spoke. Just take a normal family like us, taking our kids on this big fancy vacation. That's not bad in and of itself. But then we come home and we can't pay our mortgage. We don't have money for groceries because we mismanaged our funds and spent it on the toys instead of the important things. Okay, that's kind of how I see this. You guys have known that these critical needs have needed to be taken care of, yet you still built that. Great thing, but not necessary in comparison to what you guys are going to use this bond for. And this is really going to affect families by increasing our taxes. Depending on who you ask, Nebraska is becoming one of the states with the highest property taxes. We are not in a good place economically. And my family in particular, the company that my husband has worked for, busted his butt for 25 years, is closing. Worked his way from the very bottom all the way up to VP, has been running that company and working his tail off. And now that's going to be gone. And praise God, he found a job, but it is a significant pay cut. And what we're doing as a family, we're cutting non-essentials out of our budget. Things that aren't necessary. We'll be fine, we'll be okay. But when you guys try to pass this bond, if it does pass, it's really gonna affect families. There's families that are really struggling. I wouldn't say that we're gonna struggle, but again, because of our income level, it will affect us. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. This will affect families, and there are families that really are struggling out there. So I don't think it's going to change your mind. I think you're still going to pass it, but I just wanted you to hear me out, and just please keep that in mind. This really will affect your normal, average, everyday families that do our best to budget and try to be responsible with the income that we do bring in. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That was it.
Okay. potential future bond issue, JDO and household construction presentation.
You guys are up.
I think we're gonna have a group of us talking here for a little bit.
Okay.
So we've passed out some documentation that's in front of you. The larger sheet is a map of the complex, site plan of the complex, and then there's a layout for each building. We're gonna talk through those kind of in order of the secondary document that's in front of you that shows the needs that JEO discovered through their walkthrough. We've been working over the last 6-7 weeks to really identify what those needs are, how we can go about creating a plan, or what type of fixes would need to go into place to correct those. So we'll start at the top of this document and just work our way down. The way it's broken up is site work, high school, middle school, elementary school, and just addressing items on the site and then addressing every item in the buildings themselves.
Question.
Yep.
Where do we want to get to at the end of this meeting? I mean, what's our ultimate goal once we get through all of your information, which thank you.
Yep.
But
So I think the way that we've priced this is an a la carte type menu. We wanted to break out the costs into and identify those for each particular area and what the items are worth or what they cost. So not, by all means, not everything on here is like, it's all in or it's all out. It's up to the board from here then to go through and kind of prioritize what they think is most critical for the district. And it's just, this is the start of the process. From this point on, this is the first group of information that we have for you guys to digest and take a look at. So action items by the end of this, I think, is just to understand what the documents are, what the needs are, and what the costs are associated with them.
okay, just understanding, not necessarily saying, yes, no, yes, no.
I don't think that's the intent for today.
Okay, that's good.
Yep.
So I know.
We just want to present the information. If there's questions along the way, please ask. JEO is here to ask or answer any technical questions with any of the items. And we're here to answer any cost-related items that are associated with it.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, Gary, is the other part to tonight. We have Northland here to talk about timeline and community engagement. So as we learn about the projects embedded into what Housing with JEO put together, the steering committee, the community steering committee, are we going to use the whole document? Would the board like to pare down some of the work before we engage the community on here's the list of needs and here are the costs of the needs? Let's talk about, are they needs, are they wants, and what can we work together as a community to really create a confident list that we can speak to on that.
I'm just concerned about time and stuff and where we were going, so we get through.
I think we can get through it. Yep.
Good.
So
Thank you.
I guess I'll add that what you see in front of you as far as plans are really very high level conceptual solutions or ideas of resolving some of those critical needs that were identified in the facility assessment. And that's really needed for Hausman to do their job, to start to put numbers to it of what those fixes would cost. So as you're looking at those as well, there are dozens of different ways to address those. So as you're looking at those, any thoughts, comments you have of different ways to move the pieces around or address those critical needs would be good to hear as well.
Okay.
And then think of different priorities as well of what would rise to the top of if you had to prioritize some of this list.
Yeah. Good.
all right, well, we'll just start with the front page, showing the map of the district and all the buildings. In the assessment, there were a lot of items that came up regarding the site, regarding parking, regarding traffic flow, everything in and around all the buildings. And so we looked at that. There's a list of 6 items here that address some of those issues. We'll just start at the top. The way that this is documented as well. So the first line item is C1.1. If you look at the map, C1.1, we have everything bubbled that's going to be affected and then called out on the map as well to try to follow along. And once we get into buildings, it's gonna flow the same way. We wanted to make what we're talking about up here very clear on the plan. So if there's any questions, please ask. So item C 1.1 is addressing the bus barn. Right now, the bus barn is out of capacity with the transportation needs, with the bus needs. This would be adding approximately a 3,800 square foot addition onto the bus barn for additional maintenance, additional storage for the shop workers out there, the bus maintenance, and the overall site maintenance. That cost is coming in right now, right around just under $1.1 million. Another thing I want to add, keep in mind, these costs are all-inclusive costs. These are not just construction costs. These include design fees. These include bond issuance fees, soft costs that would be associated. So any cost associated with each one of these items is included in the number you see there. Anything to add on the bus barn from your perspective?
You covered it.
Okay.
When you say soft costs, what types of things?
So soft costs are the items that are typically grouped into soft costs are going to be design fees, bond issuance fees, owner's contingency, site investigation fees, items that are needed to get the design started, get the design progressing to a point where construction can start. Item C 2.1 addresses the part of the bus loop road. The facility assessment went into detail about all the buses that are in and out of the campus on a daily basis. There's not a good path for those from the bus barn to pick up kids. This would be adding a loop road from the bus barn south and then out to the east to 68th Street. So all the bus traffic then would be able to enter and exit the campus off 68th, up around the south side of the campus for bus traffic.
That'd be paved.
It would be paved, it'd be concrete paved, it'd be lit with street lights so that at night and during the winter months, it would be illuminated when buses are coming and going in the dark. C 3.1 addresses additional parking. Right now, there was a few line items on the assessment about not enough parking on campus. C 3.1 adds a parking lot just down here on the southeast side of the high school. That would expand and provide about another 177 parking stalls. It would also modify the entrance and exit right here south of the high school. It would push that a little further south to help with circulation. And then also associated with that would be moving that practice field further south and reestablishing that practice field for soccer, football, different activities that current green space is used for. The cost for that is just under $1.5 million. C 4.1 looks at the continuing that bus loop road. This would take it from the bus barn north along the very western part of the property, all the way up to where the loop would connect to that road by the intermediate school. All of that paving in there would be reconfigured. There would be an additional 68 stalls that would be added just north of the football field as well. It would eliminate the current gravel parking that's out there that we've all experienced with game days and different activities. It would eliminate that. It would put in structured paved parking. That road work would be paved as well, would be illuminated for safety during dark times. There would be a new drive then off the road up to the middle school for access to the shop and back of house spaces, and some additional sidewalks there for pedestrian access along that roadway.
But there still is some grass areas there.
Yeah, everything outside of the paving would be turned into lawn or green space.
Because I know they use that for playgrounds.
Yeah, so ultimately, Rhonda, they'd be removing that cut through that goes right through that green space.
Yes, right.
Cost for that is $1,752,000 for that portion of the site. We have a C 5.1 on here. One of the assessment line items addressed just cracking and potholing of the existing asphalt pavement. We've looked at that. There weren't any areas that were of concern to the point where it's failing and creating driving issues. If there was a desire for the district to want to include some milling and resurfacing in there, we can get that added. That wasn't just defined with square footage or certain areas. We have a $0 amount tied to that right now, just because that hasn't clearly been defined as far as, hey, we need to build overlay certain areas of the parking lot. But it was a concern that was brought up on the assessment, and that's why I made this list. The last item on there, C 6.1, is adding emergency power and replacing the domestic wellheads on the domestic water. That cost is $76,000. That would be pulling emergency power out of the high school, connecting it to the current well location, and then replacing the wellheads. There was an item on the assessment just with water quality, and doing some investigation. We feel that there needs to be a new wellhead plus emergency power so that there's backup when power is lost.
Yeah. So if you recall, a lot of the campus safety and security focused around the transportation. So if you look at the site plan in general, there's some key concepts of basically trying to get the main drive aisles away from the front of the building, as well as disassociating middle school, elementary school drop-off pickup lanes, as well as adding distinct, I guess, parking for the different schools, as well as the high school, as well as the district office. So just trying to clean that up, get the main drive lanes kind of on the periphery, and then feed in parking, and then pedestrian, trying to improve pedestrian access to the buildings from there. So that's kind of what you see with the overall site plans. And then there are some additional benefits there of adding the green space around the middle school for additional playground area. The additional areas that are bubbled on the site plan, those costs are being picked up in the individual schools that are affected by them. So the repaving outside of the high school here is associated with line items that will go through in the high school, elementary in the elementary, middle school in the middle school. Wanted to point that out. They're shown on this site map, but the costs are associated with the work, with the secured entrance work on the individual schools. Any questions about site before we jump into the buildings?
Ron, do you have a question?
Well, they answered my question. That was my question, and they answered it, so.
As far as entry and exit off 68th Street, anything more that you want to say about that, or that you will approve? I know we've had some discussion with 68th Street improvements and stuff, and some ideas. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so, like previously mentioned, trying to create a specific entrance for the elementary school, as well as staff parking for the elementary school, disassociating that pickup drop-off lane from the middle school. So we are identifying a right turn lane off of 68th Street. Yeah. that would go into a one-way pickup and drop-off lane up to the new front entrance of the elementary school, and then have that distinct staff parking lot immediately off of that. So that the idea there is, again, just disassociate that from the middle school, kind of clean up the middle school pickup drop-off lane, give them distinct pathways in and out, and then go further kind of south from there, extending this kind of one-way parking for additional staff and teacher parking, as well as district office parking. And then the current driveway leading into the south parking lot, we would move that a little further south, again, to control traffic from coming in right immediately adjacent to the building.
Anything more with turn lanes off of 68th Street, onto 68th Street? When, I guess I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's all in Pam's court.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's all through the
That's
county.
fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
I know there's the discussion of the roundabout at the intersection.
yes.
Yeah, I think we can, for at least this project, we would have some turn lanes off of the highway leading into campus.
We hope there's still discussion on that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Thank
really like how you cleared up that congestion around the elementary school.
Yeah.
That was just a disaster with school buses and parents coming in to pick kids.
Well, and obviously getting buses out of the vehicular traffic way as well will assist there as well.
A question about middle school drop-off, or are you gonna talk about that later?
No, it's time.
Okay, so if you're doing a middle school drop-off, would you come in through that elementary, the new elementary entrance? And then still come in the normal? Is that one going to still be there?
Yeah.
Is there still going to be one here?
Correct. Yep,
Oh,
correct.
there-
This
okay.
will remain, this will just be a
Okay,
one-way.
so they would go this way?
Yep.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that one would taken out. Okay, all right,
So when
thank you.
school buses pick up elementary kids at the end of the day, they're dropping off. Will that be at the front of the elementary, which be our new, or?
That's it.
Be the
I don't know if we
same
call that
where it's at.
It was so drop off.
That would still happen north of the middle school at the bus drop off.
That's just vehicles.
This would just be parent, teacher,
Yeah.
or I'm sorry, parent drop off.
Because right now, when you come out, like when Sean and I go out to do traffic duty, you have cars for the middle school and the elementary stacked all the way to 68
Oh, yeah.
as they're trying to get in, and then as they're picking up kids and coming out and getting in. It's a pretty slow circulation. So if you just have that lane dedicated to the middle school with the elementary having their own, you definitely free up that congestion that's sitting there for both buildings.
I guess my thought is I'd like to get you guys off the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This would help a little bit.
Okay.
Do you want me to run through your overall high school changes, or do you want to continue this format of going line by line? I know we previously discussed all the concept plans and changes. Do you want me to do an overview of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could find out.
All right, I'll do my best. Obviously, a lot of different moving parts and pieces that are identified, and it's looking at, okay, this is the critical need where the opportunities really started with identifying that critical need of moving the administration office and creating a distinct front entry for the high school. So we've relocated that administration office from the core of the building to the west of the building, and utilizing those existing vestibule doors as kind of the new entry for the high school. That creates that kind of mousetrap for school hours for any visitors, deliveries, et cetera, that they can check in directly with the administration office, and then working through kind of all the programmatic needs there. So multiple offices and school suspension, Nothing happened, okay.
Turn the microphone back on.
Thought my ears were going out. Okay, and then, staff restrooms, the nurses' classroom. And so doing that, there's a small expansion on the west side to fit in all of that programmatic needs. Student services gets expanded slightly as well to meet their programmatic needs. And then with the relocation basically of the Spanish rooms. So, yeah, the Spanish rooms essentially going to where the special ed classrooms are, which were identified as needing more modern spaces. So I'll come back to where the special ed classrooms go. I'll come back to family consumer sciences, a slight expansion of that classroom and make those workstations ADA that are currently not ADA. And then continuing kind of down that main corridor, relocating social studies where the administration office was at the core of the building, and then where you have the older restrooms that are also non-ADA compliant, basically creating a larger restroom, open restroom for both students during the day as well as public serving the gymnasium as well as the auditorium after hours. Looked at, how do we renovate those smaller restrooms? It's really pretty difficult to do, or we end up with like one fixture once we make those ADA. So basically turning those into storage rooms for custodial and maintenance staff. Keep going, the cafeteria expansion to accommodate that space, and then also allowing that to be more of a multi-purpose kind of flexible space outside of cafeteria hours. There was also discussion of the locker banks kind of flanking the library there. A lot of those lockers are unused, and so providing more kind of open, multi-purpose, flexible learning spaces in those corridors by renovating those spaces. It's basically unused space right now with the unused lockers. Go to the gymnasium, replacing those bleachers that have failed in the gymnasium. And then when we get to the district office, you can kind of see the shaded pink area. That's essentially everything we've worked through, programmatic needs and what that size requirement is. So you see there is a need to expand the district office. So that gets expanded to the south and the east of the current high school. Allows the district office to have its own front door, main entry for district office visitors, also secured by receptionists. And then also part of that district office is that board and community room. So looking at what size of the board room would be adequate for you, that's size is indicated there. That could also be used as a community event space or meeting space for the community. So we designed and sized that for that. And then jump to the locker rooms. Basically looked at how do we make the locker rooms ADA compliant, as well as providing additional storage and adequate lockers for all of your needs. And so that also comes with a small addition to the south. This allows for individual showers, ADA toilet fixtures, as well as increasing the number of toilet fixtures. For the boys' locker room, there's 160 lockers that would be essentially sized for football. And then the girls' locker room, 90 lockers that would be sized for all of your sports. And then we do gain some space for storage, so that's all that equipment can have a place to live instead of in your hallways. Am I missing anything?
When you say heavy renovation, that's more or less going in there and doing a total demo and then restructuring everything.
Locker rooms would be essentially a complete, with
Yeah.
slab removal for plumbing, as well, yeah. I can touch a little bit on that too. So we have these categorized as addition, renovation, light renovation, heavy renovation. That's just associated with the level of construction. Obviously, new addition is what it is. Light renovation is going to be more of a finish upgrade. So cosmetics, carpet, ceilings, light fixtures, paint. Renovation is going to be maybe moving a wall or two, replacing doors, maybe some casework. Heavy renovation is going to be complete gut, where we're going to have to go in and the space as it exists today is not adequate. It needs to be completely redone. And so keeping the same space, but just completely renovating the inside of it, moving walls around, repurposing the space for what it's intended to be. So Brian touched on the scope. I'll go back through the scope a little bit here as I go through the line items. There's a handful of these, the first two categories, H 1.1 through 1.4 and H 2.1 through 2.3. Those two categories have multiple line items within that group. There's a waterfall effect that happens, a domino effect that happens when you start with one area. It triggers some of the additional construction activities throughout the rest of the building. So I'll talk through that a little bit. Starting with H 1.1 through 1.4. So H 1.1 is the new addition and the renovation on the west side, taking the current administration of the high school out to the west, creating that secure entry, creating the space for all the administration to be in one location with that secure entry. When that happens, the existing classrooms that are there today have to be moved to somewhere else. So H 1.2 then converts the current sped rooms into Spanish rooms. The Spanish rooms currently live out there on the west side. They have to be moved. So we would be converting the sped into the Spanish rooms. H 1.3 takes this current space that we're in today and turns that into
Special education.
the special education, along with some additional classroom space. That is, the special education was moved out because of Spanish. It would be relocated here, in addition to some additional classroom space, life skills, SPED, English would then be, the space would be renovated into that. And then the last item in that category is the addition off to the southeast here that would house the new communities, the community room with the district office, that would take the place of this current area that we're in today. Total cost for those four items, just over $5.2 million.
A question, you mentioned the two Spanish rooms included in that, but then there's another Spanish room down here, by the FCS room. Is that,
So there's currently 3 Spanish rooms.
so you just,
The one would stay there. There's 2 south of that classroom that get relocated because of the new office
Yeah.
addition. And if you look at the map identifies those areas, the 1.1 through 1.4. So then looking at H 2.1 through 2.3, this is addressing the restrooms along the main corridor. It's addressing the space that was or is currently the high school administration. It's taking that space and renovating it into some social studies classrooms. It's creating a new bank of restrooms that are ADA compliant, because with that move, there's the small restrooms off the corridor there that are not able to be converted into ADA without moving walls and causing a bigger destruction. So those spaces are going to be turned into storage from restrooms, and then the new restrooms that would exist in the current administration would be big enough to
to fulfill the restrooms that are being removed out of that space. Total cost for that, those three items with the restroom moves, the renovation of the existing admin area is $1,991,000. So then 3.1 is the clouded orange areas. Right now, those 4 banks of restrooms do not meet ADA requirements, have a lot of the existing finishes from when they were originally built. 3.1 would go in and renovate those spaces, provide the ADA accessibility, and upgrade all the fixtures to make sure that everything's compliant to meet ADA regulations. Cost for that is right around $450,000. Item 4.1 is convert the corridor where the current lockers sit. The unused lockers would be taking those spaces and turning those into student services. Kind of more of a lounge type area, roughly 1,800 square feet. Cost of doing that is approximately $150,000.
Okay, I do have a question about that. The kids aren't using their lockers at all. How
No.
about winter coats?
Yeah,
Don't they wear coats?
you would be really surprised as you walk around the building, the number of kids who have requested to use a locker. And
That they
so,
do want to use.
no, that actually request a lock to put on the locker.
Uh-huh.
Pretty minimal, especially down on the freshman wing as well,
Yeah.
where those red lockers are.
Are they still assigned a locker? Or no?
They are not assigned a locker. I believe it's, if you want a locker, you go into the office and you grab a
Oh, I
lock
see.
and you kind of check out a locker where you're given the number and the lock.
Where do they put their winter coats? I think they mostly leave them in their car.
I was gonna say, there's a lot of kids that walk in without coats on.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Sure.
Just we
Would
could
this,
have some
would
coat
this eliminate
clothes.
all of the
Yeah.
lockers, all of them?
I think it would eliminate most of them. I think there's still probably a desire to have a small amount of lockers, but for that purpose alone, but
In the general same location?
Yeah, and I think that would be a more in-depth conversation on, let's look at how many lockers are checked out at grade level. And we wouldn't remove all the lockers, but how many do we, realistically do we need and what can we repurpose?
I'll say, I know we're calling these kind of lounge spaces. Usually they are used as more kind of social spaces before school, after school. They're also able to be used for project work or group work that teachers can assign different groups of them to work together in those settings as well.
I can see that as being really useful.
Next is 5.1, is the yellow area. So that's where there's currently 3 classrooms. FCS takes up one of those, is undersized. So this would be renovating that space, expanding FCS, and then still leaving 1 Spanish classroom in that area. About 2,500 square feet in renovation, about $121,000 in cost. 6.1. So 6.1 addresses the locker rooms on the south side of the building. There is a small addition that would happen with this, along with the renovation, full gut renovation, heavy renovation of that space. It's just under 7,000 square feet. So we would be going in, clearing out the space, that's whole space. There'd be a little bit of a building that'd be added on to provide the adequate amount of square footage. Total square foot, just under 7,000 square feet, just over $2.3 million for that portion. H7.1 addresses the telescoping bleachers in the gymnasium. That was on the facility assessment as not meeting ADA compliance. There's been some issues with them over the past few years, breaking down, needing repaired. This would just be looking at replacing those bleachers in total. roughly $445,000. 8.1 looks at the light blue down on the south side or the bottom side of your page, west side of the building. This is looking at vocal and band. This would be upgrading the acoustics in those two rooms. Probably looking at finish upgrades as well with carpet, ceiling tile, light fixtures, and then some additional acoustics to help with the sound problems. Current cost for that is $273,000. So looking at 9.1 addresses the exterior facade of the building. There were quite a few different line items on the assessment that addressed cracking and brick chipping and joint sealant failures and different things like that need to be addressed. We had a restoration contractor come out over the last 6 weeks, do an assessment of their own, go through and provide pricing for fixing all the critical items that were on the assessment. Cost of that came out to just over $118,000. That would go through all the way around the high school and address all the joint sealant issues, brick cracking, brick replacement, all of those items. 10.1 is up in the locker room on the east side. Currently that locker room slab is settled quite a bit. Sorry, not locker room, weight room. Has settled. This would be fixing that settlement issue. The way that we have it priced out right now would be going in, removing the slab, redoing the subsurface underneath it, providing structural fill, and then repouring the slab to make sure that settlement doesn't continue to happen. The cost for that is roughly $97,000, $98,000. 11.1 is looking at windows on the east side of the building. This would be installing additional windows. There's some areas classrooms that do not have current windows, and this would be popping new windows into the exterior facade, roughly $29,000. Next line item, 12.1, is looking at all the current operable windows in or around the high school in the exterior facade. It would be going in and removing those and putting in permanent storefront aluminum window system that we typically see on K through 12 facilities. It would eliminate the operable option, which will help with the heating and cooling in your ventilation system when we get down to that. Replacing those operable windows, $27,000. 13.1 is looking at the single pane windows. There's some windows that are on the high school that are still single pane glass from the original build. This would be replacing those with new aluminum storefront insulated glass to match the rest of the facility. Cost for those window replacements, right around $96,000. 14.1 addresses the roof. There's portions of the roof that have been replaced in the last handful of years. There's a majority of the roof that is now 20 plus years old, and this would be looking at removing and replacing that portion of roof. It's approximately 138,000 square feet of roof. Cost for that would be just under $3.2 million. 15.1 is looking at all the HVAC equipment and the control system associated with it. We've had a mechanical contractor out doing an assessment on the mechanical equipment, looking at replacing the equipment one for one. A lot of the equipment's at the end of its life, needing repairs. There's a lot of equipment that gets repaired yearly. So this would be looking at all the mechanical equipment, air handling units, and replacing those one for one at the high school. Along with that, we'd be doing a complete overhaul of the control system so that the control system would be compatible with the rest of the campus, along with the new equipment that would be going in. Cost for that is roughly $6.5 million. 16.1 does not have a cost. This was an item that was on the assessment with sanitary drainage issues within the high school. I know there's been some work done in the kitchen over the past couple of years, replacing some sanitary line. We had a contractor come out and snake all the sanitary lines in both the high school and the elementary school to see what kind of issues there might be. Good news is they came back and said everything looks great. So
For its age.
and where it's at. There's a couple things that they said could be addressed, but nothing that is concerning from their perspective and would need replaced in the next handful of years. We were anticipating this being a decent sized cost and a problem, but after getting the assessment back, the videos back, from our perspective, there's not a need to be ripping up floors and replacing sanitary lines at this point.
That's good news.
So that covers everything in and associated with the high school. Total cost right now of high school is just over 21 million with all of those line items together. Any questions about the high school?
For the high school, I can't remember, I think this was on something, but is there like a secure space for like storms or, you know, like I know in the middle school, we have like a tornado shelter sort of thing. Is there existing or would any of these function in that way, any of these renovations or additions?
None of the current renovations would address that. It's pretty tough to go into an existing facility and turn it into a storm shelter. Typically when that's done, it's done with new construction.
Yeah, like the middle school.
And when looking at new construction and finding a space for the entire high school capacity, it would be a pretty large addition that would be needed to cover that. So no, that was not included in this cost.
I did have a question about those two restrooms by the FCS building.
Yep.
And it looks like those are gonna be converted to storage, but it also looks like that we probably wouldn't have to change in.
They could be left as is, and not touched.
My only concern about that is, you know, when there's things going on in the auditorium, those are the restrooms people go to first. I mean, there are more around the corner, but then there's those new ones.
We'd be adding that new bank that would.
So, maybe that's okay. Maybe the storage is more important than a few more stalls, because those are small.
All right, we'll move on to middle school. Brian can talk a little bit about scope.
So similar to the high school, middle school, one of the major safety security concerns raised was the administration office being centrally located, not having direct access and contact to the front door. So this tries to address that with the addition off to the plan over east side of moving the administration office over there, again, creating that secure vestibule, secure entry mousetrap situation. And then you can see the programmatic rooms associated with that, with the different offices, their nurses room, staff restrooms, workroom, and reception. And then moving the administration office leaves that central area available for additional renovation. So coming back with kind of expanding that student lounge, creating additional teacher and student testing rooms or individual study rooms, the teacher's lounge, staff restrooms, as well as the counselor's offices. And then from there, we've talked about the shop needing dust collection system on the southwest corner there. And then the slab settlement issues in the 4 labs central to the the school, which are also the tornado shelter, and then the slab settlement issues on the 7th grade wing on the northeast corner. So for the cost side of things, 1.1 and 1.2, the new secured addition with the associated paving out front with the new circulation with student drop-off, that is connected to the interior renovation of the current administration area. So 1.1 addresses the new addition along with all of the paving rework outside. And then 1.2 addresses the renovation of the roughly 2,700 square foot area that currently sits as the administration space. Total cost for the addition plus that renovation is $1,782,000. 2.1 addresses the ventilation and dust collector issues in the shop. This will be providing a new 5,000 CFM dust collector in that shop with some additional ventilation, along with the controls of that, roughly $86,000. 3.1, again, this addresses the facade. There are some areas on the middle school as well that have cracking and joint sealant failure, brick replacement, tuck pointing. This was a part of the assessment that we had the restoration company do to repair all of the needs with the facade would be approximately $119,000. And then 4.1 addresses the settlement issues, both in the storm shelter and then on the northeast wing. Again, the way it's priced out is to go in, remove the slab, remove the unsuitable soils if there are some, bring in new structural fill, pour the slabs back, and then put the new flooring down, put the new finishes down, make sure that that settlement is stopped. Rough cost for that is about $340,000. Total cost for middle school items, $2,328,000.
This is probably a dumb question, but is there any alternative to removing the slabs and then filling it and then putting the slab back in? I mean, that's a lot.
There are other options, mud jacking, foam jacking. We're in the process of getting those priced right now, so we'll have some updated numbers as we continue to get some of that pinned down. But there are other options. Right now, this would be worst case scenario, and so we're waiting to hear feedback on what it would take from that perspective and can be done with the amount of slab that's in there.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
any other questions for the middle school? All right, we'll go to elementary school. So again, the main component for elementary school is moving and locating administration front entry to create that secure vestibule situation. Go back to more of the campus plan as well, the idea of trying to move the front door from the west to disassociate that from the middle school. So identified the idea of moving that administration office to the southeast corner of the building as a renovation space, creating that front door off the east where we can get that parent pickup drop off on the east side. Can't really get it on the west side, we're really the north side. And so again, similar to high school, middle school, just the reception, different offices, workrooms, staff restrooms, nurses room. Essentially, core of the building again, and we have it's kind of a one-to-one swap of where those classrooms were on the southeast corner, relocating those to the central part of the centrally located at the core of the building, and then ADA finish upgrades to the restrooms, kind of flanking those that are original to the 1963 building. And then highlighted in kind of purple example is basically the original elementary school from 1963. So we'd be looking at primarily finish upgrades of carpet, paint, lights, ceilings, casework of primarily that area. And then adding a preschool classroom to where the current preschool classrooms are on the southwest corner of the building as well. So E 1.1 and 1.2 address the renovation on the southeast for the new secure entry, as well as the renovation of the current administration in the core of the building. That renovation on the southeast also includes the paving and the new circulation out front, the cost associated with that. So that renovation with the new circulation, along with the renovation of the core, roughly $3,100,000. E 2.1 is looking at all those existing restrooms that are in there. Those are mostly original to the building from 1963. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in there to upgrade finishes, create the ADA compliance. So those would be a heavy renovation, essentially going in, reconfiguring those bathrooms to meet ADA and to meet the capacity that's needed for the school. That renovation of those restrooms would be $370,000. 3.1, the preschool classroom addition on the very south side of the building, roughly a 1,500 square foot addition, be about $566,000. E 4.1, the finish upgrades. So this touches approximately 39,000 square feet of the original elementary school. Like Brian said, we'd be looking at flooring replacement, ceiling replacement, light replacement, cabinetry replacement, bringing all that up to current finish standards. Cost for that is approximately $1.5 million. E 5.1 addresses the exterior facade restoration items. This addresses, again, just the joint sealants, the brick replacement, the cracking, any of those areas where we're starting to expose the inside of the building to the outside to the inside, getting all of that fixed. On the elementary school, that's approximately $121,000. E 6.1, there's the white panels. There's the white panels in every pod on the exterior as you go around up the east to the north and then around. Those white panels are a concrete product and they are delaminating from the building. There's some areas where they're starting to fall off the building, creating water issues and allowing elements to get behind there. This would remove all of those panels and replace it with a masonry product, precast or masonry type product. The removal and replacement of all of those panels around the building would be approximately $385,000. E 7.1 addresses all the operable windows in the elementary. It'd be going through replacing those with fixed insulated glass aluminum storefronts. Approximately $73,000 for that. E 8.1 is looking at roof replacement on the facility. Approximately 85,000 square foot of roof that is about to the end of its life. The cost to remove and replace that would be $1,962,000. And E 9.1, similar to the high school, addresses the HVAC equipment in the elementary that is towards the end of its life and needing replaced, along with the control system. Control system would be upgraded just like the high school, so that high school, elementary, and middle school would all be on the same control system. There would be less maintenance items with controls, there would be less maintenance with equipment, but this would be looking at a one-to-one swap with the equipment as well. Total cost for that, approximately $2,826,000. So total cost for elementary school, $10,896,000 for all of those items.
In some of those areas where the rooms are reconfigured, for example, preschool, since that's what we have right here, are the teachers or administration consulted as to how they would like that room to be configured? Or is this just kind of a start?
This is a starting place. This is more addressing the square footage in the program, and then the cost that the current market is telling us associated with those spaces. The actual configuration and the intimate details about the space, that can come at a later date once design starts to happen. This is more addressing the space as a whole from a program level.
For example, the administrative offices and that kind of thing.
Correct. It's all high level concept.
This is kind of a rough draft.
Yeah, this is just to give an idea of cost. But as they have described, you know, when they package pieces together, I mean, if you knock out walls to move a classroom, you have to find a place for a classroom, and so that's where they have to have much. Now for the preschool classroom, knowing that was part of the short cycle strategic plan, there have been conversations, nothing solid about is there a need for additional preschool section. Really put that in here just as a price point, so we do understand if and when we want to grow a preschool program, what's the approximate cost for it. I wouldn't say that right now is a need, but it was talked about in terms of that early education, early childhood, and what would it cost to grow that. But if you add a section, you're also adding FTE both in a classified and certified standpoint.
So this preschool is just replaces what we already have. This is just an EMAX change as far as space and number.
No, it would be actually adding additional
Okay,
preschool
gotcha.
classroom.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know.
Any questions about the process or what we've done to date, or how we come about this?
Good starting point.
This is the first stab at it based upon the assessment, and then from here, we'll start the process of getting more feedback and community involvement. So, thank you for your time.
So you pretty much addressed everything that was presented in this book, right? That one, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I
That's
grabbed
not the one.
everything, that's not the one, that one. That one there.
I think we've captured the bulk of it, yeah.
Okay.
All of it,
That's
yes.
good.
Yeah. So yeah, if you recall, we did the facility report, and a lot of it's narrative, a lot of pictures, different discussions with administration as well as maintenance, custodial staff on, you know, what have they been band-aiding together, where are their issues. That all goes into here, and then basically created that long spreadsheet of trying to line item out each item. And so we're still at the point of basically everything that was in this facility assessment is essentially now on this page.
Thank you.
I really like what you've done. I thought you've been very thorough in what needs to be done and looking at options that needs to be done. And I do appreciate the designs that you come up with. So this would be great. Just preliminarily kind of looking at flows. I think it's a really nice project.
Yeah, I addressed a little bit of Ron's comment as well. In no way is this the final of anything. We need your feedback, we need community feedback, we need to really identify the priority and the need of what we want to proceed with. And then, yeah, once that helps us identify, do those conceptual designs, come up with basically square footages, work with the Hausman team on the scope of that work, the quality of that work, everything that's involved to help budget those numbers so we know how much things would cost. And then if we moved into more of a design phase, then we would have additional conversations, very specific detailed conversations in the actual design. Right now, we're really just using best practices and experience to identify those big square foot numbers.
I think it's really important to understand that this is just simply one more step we're taking. I mean, originally we had to determine what all needed to be done and whether or not we wanted to do that through ongoing annual tax levies, or we want to consider doing it in a bond. And just the philosophy that the board has taken is always try to keep that tax levy as low as possible. And when we look at these kind of one-time expenses, that we would use bond funding for that. And then we had to say, well, okay, if we're going to do that, what's needed? So we do our needs assessment, facility assessment, looking at what everything is needed. And then to be able to know whether we want to proceed, we got to know what the cost of it is and what the design of it's going to be. We kind of have that. And now our next step is to say, okay, let's do a steering committee and see what the community thinks about this. Ultimately, they'll be the ones making the decision on this. We just have to try to put forward what we think is going to be, on our part, the best option that we would have. And then ultimately, they'll need to decide on that. So yeah, I think we've really accomplished a lot here. We've been kind of waiting for this step.
One more question. These costs, are these today's costs, or did you factor in any inflationary aspects?
Yep, so looking at the process in general and just the timeline of the process and if this were to happen and when this would happen, we have some inflation factored into that to account for down the road work. We're using what we're seeing in the market today and what we're forecasting 6, 8, 12, 14 months down the road. And then we're looking at individual areas of construction that are of more concern with tax and tariffs and potential increases. But there is some escalation that is built into this to help dissuade us from having any potential issues down the road.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah.
Good, very good. Good.
Are you able to project that? I would not.
Yeah, we can turn on the TV and get something projected for you.
We need a break.
Whatever.
I don't know.
How long are you gonna be, George?
I'm not here long.
How good is your stuff?
10 to 15 minutes, probably. I would like to see if we can project the timeline doc, if that helps. You guys may have it, but maybe for the public.
Start off with interest rates going down, and we'll be just fine.
A little bit.
Is that what you were here to announce?
Yeah.
1.5%? Are you projecting? Do you want to project, or I was gonna grab another computer. What do we want to do?
Let me pull it up real quick.
Sorry about that. I should have said something.
No.
Maybe I'll start though with just redefining Northland's role with the district. We have some public here, so I think that'd be helpful for them as well. So Tobin Buchanan, I'm Jeff Schneider back here with Northland Securities. We're the public finance team of First National Bank of Omaha. We worked with the district for quite a few years. We are your municipal advisor. And so what that means at this point in the process is that we have a fiduciary relationship with you and the leadership team and the district to really help kind of navigate and work through this process to provide you and the public information based on your best interests and not ours. So to go through this process and help bring in financial information and other experiences to fold into all this discussion about scope and cost and tax impact and all those kind of things. So at this point in the process and where we're going, once we get this up, my role tonight is going to kind of be to paint that picture for you of what's next and where are we going. We'll give you a broad timeline that is preliminary because it's kind of based on where you're at in the process tonight. We've talked before about what next year looks like if there is going to be an election, the different months that could occur. And so we based this timeline a little bit on just how things could flow going from tonight and forward. So the timeline is going to talk a little bit about, well, a lot about the community engagement piece. So how do you take what you have tonight and start to We mentioned the steering team a couple times, so I want to define that and talk about what that looks like, and then you're all gonna talk about how you're gonna enter into the next step of forming that group. And then kind of a snapshot of where does that go, and what does that look like as far as meetings and what you're trying to achieve at those meetings, and how you're trying to get to a point of I guess, majority consensus of what the right solution or process going forward would be.
Keep talking more.
Keep talking. Well, maybe we'll just, there we go. That might not be the right one. That might be an old one.
It's from October.
Is that from our meeting the other week, just a couple weeks ago?
This one is from
October 13th.
Oh, it could be. I didn't think there's.
If you scroll down to the box, there you go.
Yeah,
Did you
I
win?
think that's an old one. That's not the one we sent out the other day. I'll keep talking. You can find that one from our meeting the other day.
Instead of May, to my
We kind of condensed it, started to pick out some real date parameters to have those community engagement meetings. And so why don't I just describe the steering committee? We mentioned that a couple times tonight. So I think it's really important, and you've already heard some comments tonight about, what's next, how can, I think people will want input in the process, and you guys intend to do that. And so part of the discussion tonight, I think at your board meeting as well, is how do we form a steering committee made up of community members? There's a real intentional process or part of that your steering committee really needs to have a lot of different perspectives. It can't just be folks that are engaged with the district every day that maybe would support anything you would do. You need people from a lot of different areas of your district, different perspectives. This process is going to be a discussion. There's probably going to be some hard discussions about what truly is a priority for now. What's the economics look like for all of us, which we heard tonight? How does everybody gain all the information they need? Have those discussions and come forward with a solution to then recommend to you all to consider and decide what is the right path going forward. We're getting close.
We're getting there. Keep going.
Keep going. So I'm going off script here a little bit. So we talked a week or so ago about probably that first community engagement meeting being the first week in December. And so I think the district leadership team and with you is going to go through a process of advertising that to your entire public, trying to explain to people what this is about, that you have some needs, you've done a facility audit, and you want to engage them in a process to work through this information. That first meeting for those steering committees is usually pretty heavy on kind of the stuff you looked at tonight. You want them to understand what all the needs are in the district. I think when we talked as a team, there's probably some kind of tour component to that, a well-organized tour to make sure that some things are highlighted that you can see. Some of your issues you can't see necessarily, but they understand that the facility audit and kind of those needs involved. And that's a big piece of it. Does the district have some needs that need to be addressed? Along with that, usually, then we don't jump right into all the financials and things like that.
So close.
So close. Okay, so this general timeline, I'm really talking about December 1st to the 4th. It says first community advisory meeting there. So we probably would tell that group, we're looking to commit at least 3 meetings, about 3 weeks apart, probably about 90 minutes at each meeting. And so that first meeting, that's probably what we'll focus on for the most tonight, but I'll give you a snapshot of the other 2. It's understanding the needs, looking at facility audit, probably having some discussions in their groups about those needs and what some perceived priorities are, getting to see some of those needs. And then maybe at the end of that evening, taking a simple survey, could be just a few questions. Do you think Norris has some significant facility needs? Do you think it's worth time to continue to look at possible project solutions, project costs, financial impacts, and things like that. If you have 40 people there and 38 people say no, just figure it out, then you're kind of done, I guess. If it's the other way around and they want to continue to explore and get more information, then that's kind of that first hurdle. We talked with our group that we also think to kind of help make this a smooth process, after that work, that first meeting, there's probably an intermittent survey that can go out to allow those people to do some additional prioritizing, discussion, survey type information that'll guide the design team and the construction team to come back to that next meeting. If that steering committee said, yeah, let's keep looking at this, I am curious about what possible solutions would be, and costs and things like that, that would drive that next meeting. The next meeting then, you're coming together, starting to look at probably some of the information you looked at tonight. Maybe it's different because of that feedback you've already got. Maybe there's some pieces here that were discussed as that broad overall everything in already is told to you that we really don't think this is something that can be a part of this project solution. And so it starts to define itself and refine itself. At that second meeting, a lot of time spent maybe looking at project options and solutions, having Hausman share how they come to their estimating and their numbers based off of the design concepts, and then probably having us start to fold in important financial information. So it is bond rates and tax impact and giving that group the ability to start to think about, if the project's this much, what does that start to look like for me as an individual, for other people in the community? But we can also provide any kind of financial information that would be helpful to that group. Maybe they want to know your tax history, your how much you spend per pupil, how much you tax per pupil, how you compare to other contiguous or similar districts as far as what you spend on operational and maybe what you spend on facilities. Whatever they want to know, I guess we're all a resource through this process to provide that information. So part of those in-between surveys could be, what additional information do you need as a group to be part of your discussions and your conversations and your prioritizing. And so that second meeting is a little more focused maybe on some possible design solutions, costs, financial impacts, more discussion and maybe prioritizing out, and then probably some kind of feedback either that night or in between that continues to kind of refine and prioritize and take that solution a little further each time. That third meeting, maybe you're starting to look at something that's starting to come forward as a potential solution that group believes makes sense. And but that night, you probably start to really dig into the details as far as, it really comes down to, in the end, you're asking them as representatives of your community to tell you what they believe makes sense and they can support, but also what they believe the greater public, your district, can support. And so you end up with, and if you need to have another meeting, you have another meeting. So it goes as long as it needs to go. So this timeline is really just preliminary. And I think from that point, the discussion is, how do we engage the broader public now? So the steering committee has done a lot of work. They've educated themselves. They know all the moving parts. They potentially have something they believe makes sense, solves what you need to solve now at a cost or impact that's tolerable. How do you measure the rest of your public? Is it a series of meetings? Is it some kind of survey? So I think there's another layer of time there before you all would ever get to considering a resolution, put something on the ballot that's an additional check-in with your broader public. Is the steering committee, the board, the leadership team, are they on the right path? Are they, is what they're considering gonna resonate with the broader public? So just a snapshot, I guess, of potentially where we're going, a little bit of look at what that first meeting could look like and how it'd be structured. I think you're gonna kind of rely on us just to help facilitate and be experts at certain parts of information that the steering committee needs to be successful. And so that's my job tonight, to kind of give that overview, maybe the next step. Probably the biggest focus is going forward. That first meeting, you have a date set, I think, or in your mind.
December 4th, I think, is where we were leaning.
And then maybe now we're at the board meeting, you're gonna talk about how do we actually get that steering committee? How do we get folks invited to that? What does that look like?
Sorry, December 3rd.
December 3rd.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off of what Tobin was saying, I did send you guys a hold calendar invite for that date. But just to reiterate what Tobin had shared, open to the public, but making sure that we're casting a wide net to get public to be part of that steering committee, along with, individuals that have reached out to us, that have expressed interest in being part of the bond conversation, making sure we have also communication to go out to them to invite them to the meeting on that date.
What I see some folks do, you're gonna have that general all call to anyone who wants to be involved, and we want people from all areas of your district. You may know some folks that, let's say there's a large ag land owner that you really think their input is valuable. I think you can reach out to them and say, here's what's going on if you haven't heard. We'd like you to be a part of this because we think your perspective is going to be important. Business owners, folks that haven't had kids in the district for a while. You need those kind of ideas, I think, or else if you end up with everybody rowing in the same direction from the beginning, I'm afraid you make the mistake that that's not how your general public really feels about a potential solution. So I think that's really important how you structure that group, or invite that group and have that representation.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I like the roadmap, Tobin. I like it.
All right. It's a lot easier with something up there.
I want to see how long you talk before we.
I have to go to my joke Rolodex.
Sean had it figured out about 5 minutes earlier.
Thank you, Tobin.
Well, that was quick.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other?
Yeah, so I would just say, since we have just a little bit of time, Chris is making her way back with the pizza. Okay. Is there any other conversation regarding to either what we heard from Hausman and JEO tonight, or any conversation that we had, or any information that was shared with us from Northland and Tobin?
I think, to me, what do we do as a board, as a district, as an administration, to get this communication out, and what steps do we need to be doing? Tobin gave us a great update on what's gonna happen at the meeting, but still it's gonna be getting people there, informing people, letting people know we want you there. I mean, what needs to be done now from here? I mean, it's great information. I think we all agree with that, but what's our next steps of moving forward for that December 3rd meeting? Because that sounds like that's the next time that we'll basically be getting together. So what needs to be done?
Yep. So first and foremost, too, from a board perspective, we will post that for quorum as a meeting, so that all 6 can be there, and not committee work or anything like that. So all 6 on Friday. So look for communication from us on Friday. On Friday, same team, JEO, Hausman, Northland, and us are sitting down and Ashley from Hausman's already drafted communication. So there's multiple communication chains. There's the, general public, we're pushing this out. You might see it in the newspaper, social media, all of that, to the individual points of contact that we want to make sure we reach out. So Ashley's kind of broke it down into those different categories. And when we finalize that communication and then decide in which avenues we're going to send that out, that will all be shared with the Board of Education on Friday. So again, feel free to take that information and share it with individuals, or just so you're aware of what's being communicated out from the district, in hopes to get more And then the reminder emails as well as that date gets closer to remind people of that date. And it's just not a one-time communication piece.
Okay.
So, yeah, Friday afternoon, we have a meeting, and that's really kind of that big ticket item in that meeting is we're walking away with that communication plan.
And Wednesday nights are the nights we're looking at, right?
So I think we decided as a group to spread those out. We're gonna start with a Wednesday night, and then we might rotate on different nights. But again, I think it's after that first meeting, when we get folks there, we can ask that question. We can set a date, but we can ask that question, what nights work best for people? We're never gonna probably get 100% attendance at every single meeting. That would be excellent, but just making sure we have dates that don't interfere with events and all of that.
And no perfect size, but I think, you know, hopefully you get 30 to 40 folks. If you can get 20 to 25 there every time that hopefully represent your district well, then that's okay. But I think probably love to have a good group, you know, 30 to 40 people that can get information and break into groups, have discussion and share out their ideas about everything. So.
Well done by
Can you
all
record the
parties.
meetings?
Those community meetings, we can. It's really gonna test our technology, but we'll give it a try. In this room, it's a little bit easier with this, but I think if we do it in the auditorium or maybe the high school, I don't know what the high school NPR has, but we'll find a way.
Yeah, good job by all parties. 'Cause
Yeah.
Obviously, we got pretty large campus, all different buildings, a lot of moving parts, a lot of age in a lot of them, and a lot of needs that are needed. And you found all those and figured out where to move other classrooms and so on and so forth. So I feel like the big picture vision of what all of you did, and then finalizing with numbers, and now Tobin with a great roadmap for where we're headed. Great job by all of you. It feels really good to me as a board to know that we definitely picked the right team. We got the right team of folks that are great, that care about all of our kids in the community, and that's exactly what we need. This is a great place to start. Let's just go get it done.
I think the big thing that you said is we've got multiple buildings we gotta worry about. It's not one high school to worry about what we're gonna do.
That wasn't easy to put that whole list
That's-
together. Look at the
that's-
JO
that's-
team. That wasn't easy.
that's a big deal,
There's a
yeah.
lot of stuff.
Yes.
There's a lot of moving parts. Yeah, great job.
Okay,
We do need a motion to adjourn.
okay.
So moved.
I'll take that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
We'll get some plates set up, but pizza's back there. I ordered it.
This now.
Oh, this is okay. Oh, okay, I did see a map. I didn't even look at it. Oh, okay. This is what it is.
We did that. I don't know, Charlotte.
Yeah.